The Coder School. It's the Franchisor Hot Seat. Coming up next. All right, it's very rare that I say this, Hansel, but to kick this off, I'm a fan of the brand. My kid every Saturday when we lived in Atlanta went to the Coder School. So fan of the brand. So we'll start there. But question one, and then we'll go unscripted. How did you accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise story?
My franchise story. Well, let's see. I was in corporate world for quite a while and tech guy, and I just basically one day decided I hated it. Want to do my own thing like a lot of franchisees do. So I just randomly happened on an article in Entrepreneur Magazine for School of Rock, actually, which is a huge franchise. Love those guys. And I had played in the band a long time ago. And I was like, wow, it'd be so amazing to teach kids how to play Led Zeppelin on stage, So that's how I got into franchising in the first place. And then I took the tech background that I mentioned and kind of combined it with what I learned working with School of Rock. And that's out popped the Coder School.
All right. Tons to unpack there. So hate your corporate job, which a lot of people that turn to franchising go through exactly the same path. And you went down the path that I would expect most people to do, is like, let me go find something that I'm super passionate about. So many people are like, I want to buy a power washing franchise. I'm like, so you always think about doing that? But you're like, I would like to teach kids music. Talk about your understanding of franchising at that point. You see the ad, you go through the process. Did you even know what it was? Like, and you went through it. And then secondly, as a franchisee, at what point are you like, ooh, I want to be a franchisor, not just a franchisee?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, when you first go into something like franchising, there's a lot of unknowns, right? I mean, even if you hear stuff from your friends or whatnot, you sort of don't know until you know. So just I think my concept going in was that, hey, somebody's going to help me, start up this business. Somebody's going to provide some support for me. So I would say generally pretty blind, but I think the power of a franchisor is somebody that could come in and really help you learn. Right. And so, 6 months in, I was like, hey, I get it. These guys are super valuable because they taught me all the skills I need to run my own business. And so to the second part of your question, I sort of realized the power of that franchise model. The model where I, as a business owner, I don't have to start from scratch. Somebody give me a hand and get me going. And so this was in Silicon Valley at the time. And so it was just fortuitous. In Silicon Valley, there wasn't really anything to teach kids how to code at the time. So I was like, whoa, there's a gap for sure. And so I took my tech knowledge and then I thought, well, wait a minute, I also now kind of know the franchise model. And so, is that something I can combine together? So that's kind of how it all started.
Did you remain a franchisee? Are you still a franchisee with School of Rock?
No, I was actually doing it in parallel for maybe 3 years or so.
And
yeah,
then,
but no, I don't.
Did you sell your unit?
Yeah, back to corporate. Yep.
So that a whole another extension of the stories that I love is when you've protected an asset and have something to sell in the end. Like that's another value of franchising. So you open up unit one, but you're opening up unit one of the Coder School with the lens of I am going to franchise this.
I wouldn't necessarily say the lens, maybe a super blurry lens. It was more, you mentioned before, some franchisees go in it to do power washing and just say, where's the money at, and do the numbers add up. I kind of never looked at it that way. I kind of looked at it as like, what cool thing do I want to do? What's going to sort of make me wake up in the morning and want to go in and check it out. So when I first opened the first one, I was pretty sure it was going to work because Silicon Valley, there's a lot of money, people want kids to code. So once I opened the first one, I brought in my best friend who is now my business partner. And we sat and talked about it a lot. And we were like, do we want to go for the franchising model or do we want to raise money and just kind of open a ton ourselves? And we just realized that, back to this passion thing of kind of wanting to do it. I think every school requires that owner that just really wants to impact the community and help the kids code and all that stuff. And so we realized that we can't really outsource that, across the country and just hire some dude out on the East Coast and hope that they're passionate. We need an owner who's vested and really wants to do it. And it's their money, their risk and all that stuff. And they want to get in there. So that's why we went the franchising model.
So how many units do you guys have open now?
Right around 70 or so.
So looking back on the story, Did that hit your expectations once you said, okay, we're going to invest in franchising? Has it missed expectations? Where were the expectations?
Yeah, so to be honest, in the beginning, I'm not a big business guy. I'm more of a small business and get my hands dirty. And when we first opened, and when we first started franchising, I had already said to myself, I was like, if we get to like 30 units, I'd be stunned, and I would get out and have somebody else run this thing for me. And every time we hit the mark, the next milestone, 30, 50, 70, I said to my buddy Wayne, who runs this with me, I'm like, man, do we really need to get somebody else? Let's just keep doing this. This is a blast. So way beyond our expectations. I thought there's no way I could run a company of 70 units, but here I am, and it's been a blast, and it still is. As long as it's a blast, that's we're going to stick around.
So unsolicited, and then we're going to get more into the brand, but unsolicited. What I love about your story is, one, a franchisee mindset is different than a franchisor mindset. So as a franchisee of School of Rock, obviously you've bought into that business, and now when you're setting up your own business, you're having a different lens in the way that you're approaching it, which there are plenty of brands that are like, we're going to spend on all these bells and whistles and increase the investment for the franchisee. I'm sure you're looking at it and saying, how do we bootstrap something where what we're trying to accomplish is educating kids and giving them a coding education, not necessarily all the bells and whistles. So if I'm you, I would almost extract what you just said. I would put like former School of Rock franchisee, how I created the Coder School, because there's so many insights that you went through and you gained that you probably cross applied. And so when I land on your franchise site right now, it says franchise, and that's not what you're selling. Like, the reality is, even the small business mindset that you just talked about, like, we would be super thrilled with 30. That means you're in my opinion, you're probably protecting the culture more than you're giving yourself credit for, to be able to now have doubled the goal that you're getting to. So when I hear magic in the words that you're saying, I don't think it translates over into the way that you're positioning the business. And I do think it's a tremendous business. And really, I mean, I've said this on some of my podcasts before, like, for our kid, like, we hired a private teacher in India for a long time to give him coding lessons, because we couldn't find a solution. That was when we lived in Chicago the first time. And then when we moved to Atlanta, we're like, oh, we finally found something that can give him the basics. And whether he wants to code for the rest of his life or not, it's like, in my opinion, it's as essential as learning Spanish. Like, if you don't learn this, it's going to impact you as an adult later on. So anyway, I think your story is so beautiful, and I don't think it translates over to the franchise site. So I would play back what you just said and go blow up your franchise site.
Good advice. I'll definitely take a look. Appreciate that.
All right, let's get into the brand. I teed this up by saying, in my opinion, coding is as essential as another language, and it is a form of language that exists in our world. Why this brand? Why now? How are you continuously pushing that message, both in a community and back to the franchise buyer?
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting nowadays with AI coming down the pipe. In the beginning, certainly a lot of people said, "Oh yeah, everybody has to code," and that's sort of a given. Now there's a little bit of, does everybody need to code with AI coming? I would tend to say we do. Of course, I'm a little bit biased, but for a number of reasons, I think we do. But it's not just the technology of it, right? We're immersed in technologies. There's tons of it around, and so we need to know it. But it's not just that. Like you said, it doesn't really matter what career you're going to be in. What coding actually does is it helps you think logically. Mm-hmm. So if A, then B, and that kind of logic goes for any career, doctor, lawyer, plumber, artist kind of deal. So yeah, I think that's where we're going with this. The push on our side is we really like to do that in a very personal manner. That's what sets our brand apart. We don't set curriculum for it's not like every kid does the same curriculum. What we do is we have a 2-on-1. That's our main model. And what happens is our code coach gets to know the kid, and it's the same coach, same kid. And it's more of a mentor situation. Hey kid, what do you want to do? Hey, you really like basketball? Let's go make an Atlanta Hawks game. Something that really draws them in, that's custom to them, what they want to do, going at the speed that they want to go at. So I think that sort of custom get to know the kid is really sort of the power of our brand, and really helps the kids get engaged, but also just sort of learn at the speed they want to learn at, and have more fun, right? We all know the people with kids, we all know that kids don't learn until they want to learn. And so having fun and being engaged is a big part of it.
Just some comments, and any feedback is great. On the AI front, I'm glad that you brought that up. In my opinion, it's like, well, there's Uber. Do we need to learn how to ride a bike? And there's boats. Do we need to learn how to swim? And the answer is yes. But even if you just look at bike riding or swimming as what are the fundamentals beyond it, it's still logic. If A, then B. Like that's how our system processes. So I think just the general basic understanding of what coding is, even if you end up being an artist and use painting later on, there's still going to be some components that you learn there. And the other thing that I think is important to note that probably hasn't been touched on as much, and I'll say for my own child who is very tech focused, the coaching side of it on Saturdays when I would drop him off, yes, he was learning coding, but he was working with someone else that was listening to him and building confidence. And like, it's almost like there's a whole nother thing that's happening at the CoderSchool.
The relationship side.
Yeah. That maybe they don't get in a traditional school because the way that their brains are working, especially if you're really tech forward, your brains might not be going at the same pace as how you're learning in your education side. And so it's such it's a joy. It's not a pain. And I think that's why there's some magic that's behind that. Any comments on any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the further forward into the future we go, it's like the less this relationship stuff I feel like it's like kind of going by the wayside. Everybody's kind of looking at their phone, Instagram, and you're trying to learn how to code on YouTube or whatever. And it's just like we're missing that relationship side where you just get to know somebody. When you go to school or whatever, it's public schools, you might get 30 kids to one teacher or something, and how much attention you're going to get. So I think just this face-to-face, in person, be able to high five, your tech buddy mentor, because you solved this coding, bug or whatever. I think there's so much magic to that. In our training, we actually tell people that, we might be teaching, the future in terms of coding, but we do it we kind of do it in the past. We kind of do it by having this relationship style, like back in the days in the 50s, you'd walk into the grocery store or whatever, and there'd be some guy behind the counter saying, what kind of beans do you want? That kind of relationship, right? Nowadays, you just go check out yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So we want to kind of go backwards in time to get that relationship stuff back. We just feel like there's a lot of power to it.
Is the same true for franchisees? If you take that last line, are you taking back the power of the relationship with the franchisee that maybe you missed? Not saying School of Rock was a bad one, but are you changing the relationship with the franchisee too?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. We feel 100% like that. We are very custom with our franchisees as well. I like to say that I know almost all the franchisees as friends. Like they're people that I would have beers with. And the way we run our schools is it's not a company, it's a family. Right. Everybody has access to me and they tell me, hey, you should do this, you should do that. Those are the people I listen to. That's my board of directors, is my franchisees. So I really feel like a flat organization is the only way to go. I'm not the CEO. I'm just like, I'm their brother. We chat over drinks, kind of thing. That's the feel. Do
they resemble you? Are they formerly pissed off corporate executives? Like, is there a similarity in what the common thread was and how they even got into this?
I think probably like a lot of franchises, I'm guessing. So there's a lot of people that come from the, hey, I was in the corporate world. I kind of want to do something on my own. There's a lot of folks who are spouses who are like, hey, my husband or my wife is kind of bringing in the money. I want to do something that kind of fulfills me, that kind of thing.
Tech forward?
No. I mean, there are some who are tech forward, but what I will say is that tech forward has nothing to do with the success of this business. It's a relationship business. We can teach you enough tech to be dangerous, but you got to get out there and chat with the parents, and you got to give a good product not by knowing the technology, but by making them feel good, right? It's that whole Maya Angelou thing. It's not what you say or what you do. It's how you feel.
Right. Let's get into the investment. Cost to get in. What's in item 19?
Oh, let's see. Well, cost to get in something around, I don't actually totally remember, but I'm going to say something around 80K to 160K, I think is the range to get in. And that's, one of those all-inclusive numbers. Item 19, let's see. We are somewhere around, revenue-wise, around 300, 300 as an average across the system. We actually have an EBITDA number in there, a profit number that's a profit without a manager, meaning we did apples to apples because some people pay a manager, some people are their own manager. And it's around 100K or so across the system. But people ask me that question all the time, right? And I'll answer it with a number, but then I'll say, hey, throw that number out the window because it's an average, right? And the range is humongous. I'll be the first to say, not everybody in our system's doing well, but other people are doing really well, right? And so the question is, where are you on the range?
That's a great statement. I mean, when I'm talking to franchisees and they say, well, what's the average volume? I go, why?
Yeah.
They're like, well, because I want to know what I can make. I go, don't you want to know what the highest is? And I'm like, where's your mindset? Like, I want to do below average. I get it. It's because it's a scary thing to get involved in. And, frankly, when I keynote franchise conferences, my whole speech is around self-accountability. And if you're not performing up to the level that you expected, step one is you got to look in the mirror. And oftentimes I think we look at the franchisor and say, what are you going to do for me? It's like, what are you going to do for yourself? And when you take control of your situation, you advance. But there's always going to be a bottom third in franchising. It's a matter of, can you help coach them to want to be just a little bit better? So,
yeah, that want to be is huge, right? I mean, because it's about the self willpower to get to do it. I can only lead the horse to water, right? So the saying goes.
That's right. Let's get to the vision. All right, we've already surpassed 30 locations. We've already won. But what's the vision for the future of the business?
So the funny thing is, I actually don't have a vision. I'm not here to try to blow it up. I'm not here to exit and sell and all that stuff. I'll be honest. The best part about this is I did bring in my best friend early on, and he was my best friend before. And we just see it as we're running this company and our franchisees are our other set of friends. And it's just a blast. And so I tell people that I don't really care if I grow by 2 or 10 or 20 next year. What keeps me up at night is what can I do to help the current franchisees? Can I build them another tool? Can I get them some more leads, that kind of thing. But my vision is, hey, let's grow organic. If more people come and they're cool, great. If they come and they're not cool, then don't join my system. So whatever happens, happens. I think, like you said, we already hit our 30 or whatever the number was, and we're happy with where we are. So I don't see a need to try to blow it up.
Well, I'll put my son, he's 12, so he's too young to be a franchisee yet, but you'll appreciate this with the music background. My kids' names are Jagger and Lennon. So
nice.
If I had someone, and Jagger loves tech, if I could take someone and pair him up, like maybe he's a franchisee in like 8 years or so. So
right on. Yeah. Right on. There's a lot of fun stuff going on as a franchisee. I mean, you can learn a lot about how the world works.
Well, I'll close by saying this. I respect your answer. Everybody comes up with some sort of visionary statement. Some people are like, I want 1 million franchisees. And some people are like, we're going to do X in sales. You said, to be honest, I don't have one. I'm working with my best friend and we're working with people that are becoming our close friends and we're making a difference. Like, I don't know that I've ever got an honest answer like that. And I appreciate that. But what that does show is character. If someone's watching this and thinking about like, what do I want in a leader? I want someone that's going to be real more than anything, because there's 1 million franchise brands out there that obviously are franchising a business. It's all about the money. Like the reality is, even if they're like, we're looking for people who are passionate. No, you're not. You're looking for financially qualified, ready to buy. So
right.
I think that's a great sticking point. I appreciate you giving that answer. And I appreciate you doing Franchisor Hot Seat. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, right on. Well, thanks a bunch for having me on, man. It's a blast. It's great.
For Hansel, I'm Nick. That's another Franchisor Hot Seat.